Welcome to Larp Academia! Today, we're going to talk about a class that isn't really talked about because it is a class that everyone can play, but it's not technically a class, and, well, we're going to talk about monsters. Now, monsters, anyone can play from a PR3 and below. PR3 is power rating. So if you have a PR3 monster and you go to the game designer and they say, you can play this monster, hey, you can play this monster. You have to gain specific permission from the game designer in order to play a monster. Usually it's not an issue, especially if you have Garb, it's not an issue. But in certain circumstances, you can actually play a monster without Garb. For example, if a game designer says, hey, I did not get a person to fill this role, or they left, or they got sick, or they just are stuck at Taco Bell too long. So I need you to be a monster. You willing to accept? Cool. Be this monster. Go in there. Have at it. And you can say, well, what about a costume? And they can say, I don't care. Go in there. So you don't actually need Garb or a costume to play a monster. You should have Garb or a costume, which is why we're going to include that a little bit into monster. Now, by including that, I mean that there's going to be the color system that we had for our casters. If it's gray, it's not a good monster. If it's red, it's not a terrible monster, but it has very limited uses. If it's orange, it can use some help. It's a preference choice at that point. Green is, yeah, it's an okay monster. Blue is just a very good monster. And purple is, it's an, oh my goodness, a monster for this level is amazing. So that is our system. It is kind of based on scalability. If the monster is able to, at level 1, still be able to contend with those level 6 characters, not maybe as powerful as a level 6, but still be playable and still be fun. If the monster is powerful, obviously, the Garb, as we went over, and a few other things that we'll talk about, well, that we've talked about in our article that I'm linking in the description down below. Adaptable they are, which also kind of fits into how adaptable they are in their own niche. For example, if someone is I'm a hardcore barbarian, how have they adapted that persona, or how are they adaptable to different situations, which is also versatility. For how a monster could be useful in many different situations, if they're good as a healer on the team, as a spellcaster on the team, but also as a fighter on the team, and they actually do those roles surprisingly well, then yes, great versatility. Or conversely, if the monster is very situational, for example, I'm a fire giant, I go and hit things, how well can you do that? And how well can you do that? And that is the system that we are kind of going on. So, without further ado, let's go into that first monster option that you can pick as a level 1. Now, the first option that you have is a Brownie. Now, brownies are these small little annoying creatures that just go, just annoy people a lot. And in order to play a brownie, you just need brown tunic. Very simple, easy to guard up for. In addition to that, brownies have an option of either armor, worn armor, or natural invul. Now, natural invul or natural invulnerability is just a all-encompassing point of armor where if you're hitting the arm, it's gone. If you're hitting the leg, it's gone, wherever. But when you are hit, then or it casts a spell upon you, whatever it is, you know. Someone says, well, this kills you. No. Well, someone says, well, this ignores all things because it's phasable. You say, no. Natural invul is my ultimate. No. However, it's a 1 point gone, which means it could be taken away by someone saying, hey, Brownie, I shove you, and you go, no, you can't do that. It sucks. You can't choose when your natural invul is gone. It's just whenever any hostile effect would happen to you. So you can have natural invul if you do not have your worn armor. Already pretty decent options. You don't have to wear armor. You don't get the ability to use a shield, unfortunately, I know, and you only have a small and short. So it's not the best kit overall for a brownie, but the abilities are what make the monster, and you're going to be hearing that a lot as we go through monster. The first one that you get is Shadow Step. Now, Shadow Step is you step in the shadows. All right, cool. You gain Blink. All right, so I'm kind of an assassin class that's meant to harry and annoy. Well, I hope my other abilities represent this. Well, you have Flight, which is I don't know why Flight's added to Shadow Step and Blink, but you have a lot of ways to get away, so you can just be a super annoying class. And then you have Lost, which makes other people annoying. Now, aside from being extraordinarily annoying, a brownie can't do much. They don't have much that they can do in combat. They can only make people lost, and then they can get away, and they have their 3 lost that is almost per refresh since they don't die usually due to these many escape mechanics. But brownies they're not the best. in terms of power. They're not the most powerful monster. They don't scale well. They're an interesting level 1 monster to have, but that's about where they fall off. They can have some fun roleplay, but there are much, much better monsters for annoying people. Next, we have the cat person. Cat ears. It's kitty-like, right? All you really need is cat ears, and that's pretty much it for garb. It's fairly easy to garb for, not a problem there. You are also able to wear armor. You don't get natural invul, sad day, but you are able to wear a decent bit of armor. You can use small shields, and you even have some weapon choices that you can go over, which are a bit better than a Brownie. Now, the kit suggests that you are meant to be sort of a skirmishing type class or skirmishing type monster. So let's look into those abilities. Your active abilities are that you have tracking, not very often, not as good as a scout, and you have blink, which is okay, it's cool. Those are your active abilities, which means you're kind of a sideline protecting skirmisher, sort of, but you do have 2 passive things. You are enchantable. Monsters are not normally enchantable, like players are in player classes are always able to wear up to 1 enchantment. You, as a monster, normally don't, but you get that as a cat person. You get the enchantable bits, and you are also immune to command. Immunities are great. Immune to command is going to be very standard for monsters. So you have a nice passive bit. You're supposed to work with a team. You're supposed to kind of protect the sidelines and maybe flank, but that's really it. They're not the best at that. They're not able to do almost anything else, and they're sort of an alright monster that's kind of underpowered and not very playable when there's level 6s on the field. It's not powerful, it's not scalable, it's not the best in its situation, but it is an option for you to choose that is decently easy to garb up for. Now, the fairy is a small little annoying creature. We talked about how brownies can be kind of annoying. Well, fairies are a bit more than that. Now, fairies at first, looking at the garb, is a bit annoying to get, but it's not too bad. And for your kit, you have no armor, no shields, and pathetic weaponry. All right, we understand that. Fairies are not meant to be frontline fighters or anything. They are meant to be casters and little helpers, and that's reflected in their abilities. Now, the first thing that you get is immune to command. Obviously, almost every creature gets this. You are also small. Now, as a small creature, you are able to block projectiles with your arms, since your arms don't wound you from projectiles, which is wonderful. So you're able to just go around blocking with your arms, and you don't have to worry about the main issue of not having a shield, which is projectiles. You also have flight, unlimited, in order to get away. But you also have a chargeable blink in order to get away in case flight for some reason won't cover it, or you need to just have 1 line and then gone. You are able to help your team and others with a chargeable heal charge times 3, which is not bad. It's actually pretty good, especially as far as monsters go. And you also gain 1 loss, kind of like the Brownie. Now, fairies, even though they don't have as many loss, are more annoying than brownies because they're able to heal people. They're able to just fly around as they're small, and it's just an absolute nightmare to deal with. You are fragile, so if you're hit anywhere, you die. Melee weapons especially. It doesn't really apply to ranged projectiles, so you want to stay away from the fight. You may just want to annoy a person with your loss, or you might want to actually help people with heal. In this instance, fairies are much more annoying because if they stay behind their teammates, they're much harder to kill than a brownie, and it seems like they're able to do more because of their heal. And due to their heal, loss, and flight, and all these other things, they are kind of versatile and all over the place, but they are actually able to fill a pretty good role as a level 1 monster, which is why fairies are a pretty decent option for you to choose, since they work at level 1, they work even at level 6. Although they aren't the most powerful, they are very versatile. Now, a hill giant, the big and strong one, is able to wear armor of natural armor. Well, you get to choose kind of which one you want, since they don't work in conjunction with each other. And you're able to take some big rocks and throw them at people, and all melee weapons. You don't need no shields. That's kind of a hill giant. It's not the best of all the giants. In fact, it's the worst, kind of, because we're at level 1. But the abilities also complement it. You are large and you are strong. Large is you're able to hit things out of the air. That flying fairy, bap! Ah, normally you can't be within 20 feet. Well, I don't care about your state. I can just bap you when you die. As for strong, they are armor breaking, shield crushing, as they just go and hit things. And that's really it. I mean, there's nothing else to a hill giant. It's okay if you just have a brown tunic and want to say, hey, I want to play a monster that has natural armor and doesn't need a shield. Okay, you're an all right bruiser, but at the same point, they're not particularly powerful. They do not scale well. There are far better monsters, especially when you get to level 6 and dealing with level 6 players. Yeah, a hill giant doesn't stand up. They're okay power-wise for level 1, but not very powerful, and just they're okay. That's really all there is for a hill giant. It's just they're okay. There are better of anything that they do, so Now, the most powerful monster at level 1, you may not have considered this, but when I state it, you'll think, oh my god, of course, that monster. And that is the Goblin. Now, goblins are so annoying and so powerful to face against. They are able to use bows, armor, shields, melee weapons, and in addition to all that, they're fragile, which makes you think, maybe they're not that good. They're only a PR and a half. The only monster in the book that's a PR half, 0.5. But they have one ability that just makes them so evil, and that is sheer numbers. Essentially, a goblin dies, they have 2 lives per life. That means you have to kill them 3 times before they actually die. Goblins they are annoying. They are so annoying. They are possibly better archers than a scout or an assassin because of this, where they could just be popped at range and, oh, well, I just come back, hey, and I can just shoot my bow. While assassins have to actively blink or shadow step away. And scouts are able to heal that wound that they get from having themselves shot. Goblins are just, hey, and they just go away, and then they come back as my brothers avenge me. So goblins are extraordinarily annoying. There's a reason why just 3 or 4 of these little annoying creatures will give 6th level adventurers or players a hard time just because of how many times they can pop and the versatility of the items that they can have. They scale well, they're extremely powerful, and don't let that 0.5 power rating deceive you, because sheer numbers is just amazing with the kit that they get, and everyone loves them. They're a nuisance, they're a menace. Play one, love it. They're amazing. Now, the cousin of the goblin is the gremlin. Gremlins are kind of magical goblins. Now, the cousin of a goblin is the gremlin. Gremlins are the magical casting goblins, sort of, kind of. And in exchange for this, they have no armor, no shields, pathetic shorter dagger weapons, and of course, they're fragile. This isn't great, but again, they're spellcasters, so their abilities are Dispel Magic, once per life. If you die a lot, it's pretty useful because you're able to have a consistent way to dispel things, so that's kind of cool. Heat Weapon, uncharged. You can constantly annoy people with that. Blinking, what was the other one? Oh. Break Concentration, so those spellcasters that are better than you can really get annoyed at you as you just say, no! And then you just command them suppressed, and then you run away, as that was your whole plan, since that's all you really had. Or just to go and shank them. And you also, in case you go too far in with your shanking and need to get away, can blink. Ah! And those are all your abilities. Now, these abilities are okay. They're annoying. The sense that you have Break Concentration and Heat Weapon as chargeable are pretty big deal, since you're able to consistently annoy people. You do have an out, and that's really kind of it. The ways to annoy people are not the best in the world. They're not terrible. And you could play this with level 6s, but it's just not, it's not the most powerful class in the world. It's not the best at what it does. It is somewhat versatile in the annoying aspect, since you can annoy literally anyone, melee or spellcasters, but at the same point, it's okay. It's not really good, and it can die super easy, but it's an okay choice to choose. Now, you would never consider this a monster, but the Warhorse. I know, it kind of actually sort of makes sense, but not really. You don't have someone riding. You don't have to have someone ride you. We're getting a little weird here. But the Warhorse is a monster option that actually isn't very bad. You have a decent bit of armor. You don't have shields, but you have a decent bit of armor. You can wield longsword, strangely enough, and you have some interesting abilities. Obviously, you have many-legged. Now, what many-legged does is it makes it so that you are able to count your legs as natural invul. So if someone hits your legs and you have no more armor left on your legs, well, taken. If someone throws an ice ball at your legs, taken. And anytime it would hit your legs or affect your legs, you just take those points off of your many-legged. Now, many-legged also can be healed, so it's the only natural invul in the game that can be healed, so that's pretty good. But that is not all you have. You are immune to subdual, so you don't actually need to worry about those ice balls hitting your legs. You have adaptive blessing that you can put on yourself that makes you, well, it affects only the death skull, which is not the most adaptive in the world, but you get basically a resistance, which is wonderful. And you get release once per life. Now, in case something hits you, oh, a lightning bolt hit me and I need to release myself. You can release yourself, which is always good. And the Warhorse is actually pretty good for what it does. It's a bit better than a Hill Giant, I would say, because while it is meant to go out there and fight, it does have an immunity. It doesn't have strong, unfortunately, but you can wield long swords. You also have many-legged. You have a release. You have more ways to stay alive while dealing damage, and you have like better armor. So a Warhorse is actually a pretty good option for level 1 and pretty powerful. You could even play it, I would dare say, with level 6s and have some fun. Maybe not the best in the world, but you could have some fun with it. Now, we've had the little cat person out there, so why not have the bunny person? And that is the Lepus. Now, the Lepus is an interesting concept. It's meant to be an in-between between Barbarian and the Enlightened Monk, which we'll get into how well it does. Now, it does have the job. Now, you don't get a shield because in the Monk Enlightened bit, you are able to actually wear armor because of the Barbarian side of you, and you gain some decent weapon choices. Now, the abilities of the Lepus are a little weird. You get your immunity subdual, which is half a barbarian immunity. You get missile ball block, which is the monk ability you get. You, of course, have the enlightened berserk, as you have armor breaking. And in case you need to and things get hairy, you have leap to get out of combat. Leap is kind of like blink, where you just go from one spot to the next. Now, and you don't have as much options as blink does, but you're actually able to get out of there. And if someone's standing next to you, you're still able to get out, not be essentially kept into the insubstantial state. Now, the Lepus, it tries to combine these two classes that are very at odds with each other. You have a raging barbarian and you have the enlightened monk who's anti-caster completely. You have an immunity, missile block, and even berserk and a leap to get out, but it's not the most amazing of classes. It's a fun roleplay one to do. It's not at all good at when you're facing level 6s. Oh my god, no, the scalability is terrible. But as for power, it's pretty good as a level 1. It's an interesting class to play, good for interesting monster to play, good for level 1, and it's an option if you choose. Not a bad option, but an option to consider. Now the Lizardman. The Lizardman, well, I can't do the serpentine tongue, I tried. But the Lizardman is fairly easy to garb up for. You just need to have little scale garbing. It can be easier or hard depending on your circumstances. And Lizardmen have armor, shields, weapons, pretty good weapons actually, and their abilities are not bad at all. They are immune to death, which, I mean, it makes sense due to their poisonous nature. They gain poison, again, due to their poisonous nature. They have Shadow Step and tracking, so that no one else can be Shadow Stepped as well. Now, Lizardmen are actually fairly powerful due to their equipment. I mean, having that much armor, the versatile options for weaponry, it's pretty good overall. And having these abilities that actually complement it and work kind of well together, they're synergistic to a point, it's not bad. They're not the best scaling against level 6s or comparing to level 6 monsters. It's just, Why would I play a Lizardman? The answer is you probably wouldn't. But they are extremely powerful for a level 1 monster, and actually, I would dare say even pretty good as far as level 1 monsters go. Now, the Scalors are the aquatic brethren of the lizard folk, and I would go as far to say the lesser brethren of the lizard folk. You see, Scalors are a bit more annoying to garb up for. They also have their melee weapons and their armor and shields, all those other fun things. But Scalors, their abilities drop off drastically. They have aquatic, which is wholly situational. In most battle games, you probably don't even have a river, or anything that's aquatic to make them even decent. So, it's a throwaway ability. They also have Entangle. Now, Entangles are great. You can throw Entangle balls. This is actually a very big pro for the Scalor. However, that's all you've got. In fact, your weakness is pretty terrible. If you're affected by magic, you are fragile. So if someone dispels you, you are fragile. If someone does anything to you, shoves you, you are now fragile. It's pretty terrible. So due to these negatives, Scalors are... If you have a water game that you are trying to play, then yes, Scalors are good. Otherwise, not good at all. Skirts are the monster that try to be assassins in first level monsters. Now, Skirts can only wear up to 2 points of armor, have swords and daggers, and really aren't that impressive overall in their normal kit, as well as being a little bit of a pain to garb up for. Their abilities are where the Skirt kind of makes up for it. The Skirt gains poison and shadow step, but it gains chargeable poison. It gains basically assassin poison. Now, when you compare it to level 1s, the Skirt is a better assassin than an assassin because the poison that you get as a level 1 is better than the poison that an assassin can get as level 1 for their look the part. When assassin hits level 2, that falls off. And assassins are much better than Skirts. So they don't scale well at all, but they're pretty powerful for a level 1 monster. They're very good in what they do, and they're the assassin-y option if you want to be a pure assassin as a level 1 monster. Now, the Troglodyte is a little weird. It's good, but it's weird. Now, you are able to get 1 point of natural armor, and I think I've neglected up to this point to explain exactly what natural armor is. I've explained natural invul, but not natural armor. Natural armor is considered as magical armor that covers everywhere, but it can be healed in order to be repaired. So you have 1 point of sectional armor, which is great for people who don't have armor, and you gain a decent selection of melee weapons and other equipment, but the abilities are just so weird. Now, you have aquatic, we talked about with Scalor. Aquatic is meh. At best, very situational. But you do gain poison, charge ×3, which is really good, and abeyance. Now, abeyance is a 5th level healer spell, which, well, we talk about it in 5th level healer. You can stun people with abeyance. A first level monster has a stun? What? I mean, we talk about its weaknesses in the 5th level healer video, but you still have the option of a 5th level ability. Just, hey, I can stun people. And also, if you block it, I can poison you and kill you. Okay, I mean, Troglodytes are very good for this reason. And they can actually give level 6 characters or players a tough time as well. So it's scalable to a point. It is actually pretty powerful. Troglodytes are very fun overall. They don't have a lot of differences in their kit. They're not the best at what they do because what they do is stun or kill, who knows? But they are a little bit versatile as well. They're a weird class and confusing. They're not outright super powerful, which is why they are where they are. Now, the Yetie, the one who is in cold climates and then is able to deal with the frigid temperatures, is able to be iceballed. It's one of my favorite things to do with the Yetis is to iceball them. The reason why you're able to iceball them is that while they are interesting to garb up for, they have 2 points of natural armor, 2 points of natural, not natural invul, and they can only wield short swords. So they don't have anything to really stop against ice balls. In addition to this, they are not immune to subdual. You would think they are, but they are not. They can, however, freeze other people because they do have access to ice balls. So while they can be frozen, they can also freeze others. As weird as that sounds. Yetis are also kind of, again, taken from the barbarian bits, where they have berserk as a trait and they get fight after death once. Now, Yetis are pretty good along these lines. You get 2 points of natural armor, all right? 2 points of natural armor is really good. I think that's even possibly the most natural armor you get at level 1. So you have 2 points of natural armor, short swords to go out there and just fight as a barbarian, fight after death, and you can freeze people like warriors. Who cares about warriors? Hit their shields, freeze them, and keep going. Yetie kind of scales to against level 6 people. There are better options, but it's not terrible. It is very powerful for a level 1 monster, and it's good at what it intends to do, which is kill people and iceball them while hoping that you don't get iceballed yourself. Now, that was all the level 1 monsters that we have for you, and I would love to hear from you. What monster do you like to play the most? What is your favorite level 1 monster, and which monster is absolute garbage? Leave a comment in the comment section down below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell so that you can stay informed. And be ready for when that level 2, well, the Amtgard monster level 2 video comes out. Until next time, keep LARPing.